Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Jacob Weil here, and it's actually only me. I'm actually the only one here doing this. No, none of my other cohorts on this channel wanted to do this stream, so I decided to take this opportunity to stretch my own wings and do it on my own, do something on my own for a change. And today, I'm talking Lilo and Stitch, mainly the live action remake, but first, I'm going to start with my personal history. Now, as some of you may be aware, the channel Tiki and Dragon did actually do a 20th anniversary retrospective on the original animated movie. Now, I was not involved in that. I was not brought on. So I'm going to take this opportunity to say my piece about that. To say my piece about the movie. I'm going to try and keep it brief so I can focus on this. And keep in mind, I just got done watching this, and so it's probably going to be, this is going to be a little off the cuff, going to be kind of like free flowing, loosey goosey kind of thing. So the original Lilo and Stitch came out when I was 7 years old, and I didn't fully appreciate it for what it was at the time, because I was only 7, and it turned out to be the last 2D animated movie I saw in theaters for well over a decade. Something that I've come to appreciate. I've actually come to appreciate, kind of an end of an era for me. And as I said, at first, I didn't fully appreciate it for what it was. Of course, afterwards, after it came out, I did watch the series, the movie, the other movies, and revisiting this one even several years later, like I fully appreciated it. I mean, I developed a whole new appreciation for it. It was one of the films that kind of made me realize why I fell in love with animation in the first place. And the original holds a very special place in my heart. As I said, it was the last 2D film I saw for quite a long time. I mean, and the thing is, it's actually the last American 2D animated movie I ever saw in theaters. I mean, like all the other 2D animated films I've seen in theaters have been foreign, like mainly Japanese. So I didn't see Princess and the Frog or any of the movies in theaters after Lilo and Stitch. All of them I saw on TV, like through Disney Channel, where I initially rewatched the series and the movies associated with this. But not only is it the last movie, the last 2D animated movie I saw, it's like, if I'm remembering correctly, also probably the last movie I ever saw in theaters with my sister. She was 10 years old at the time. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was like everything's fine with us, but it's the last vestiges of one of the last vestiges of childhood before we kind of both entered our teenage years. So, and it's kind of interesting how that movie, both of these movies are kind of mainly also, even though it does feature an alien experiment, it is at its core a story about siblings. So I'll always have that. And we have little Blue here saying, well, that was the first solo stream in God knows how long for this channel. Yep. It was kind of a spur of the moment thing. Technically, I didn't even really ask permission to do this, but I just kind of decided to do it because I wanted to. And the Winnie the Pooh film was the last hand-drawn movie I saw in theaters. I wanted to see it, but unfortunately, I was unable to. So it's like, I mean, I could go a very long time about how much the original movie means to me, but how much more it means to me, like the characters, how the series evolved as it went along, like I said, me developing an appreciation for it over the years, learning a lot of behind the scenes things about it. Like, I know, but so, but that's basically what I wanted to say. This is gonna be just me talking about my feelings of the original series, unless anybody watching this, anybody who happens to be watching this, really wants and has anything specific they want to ask. But so going into that, I was kind of nervous about the animated about the live action remake because you know, I mean, I wouldn't possibly think like this could either be terrible or it could either be terrible or it could set the new gold standard, for Disney live action remakes. And just gonna say, honestly, I don't think it's either. I don't think it's either one. I mean, the live action remake, I think is actually still. I mean, I just keep in mind I just saw this, so who knows? My opinion might actually change if I ever rewatch it. But I wouldn't say it sets a new gold standard. I would still probably say the gold standard for the live action remakes are probably the Jungle Book, not the 90s one, but the Jon Favreau 2016 one, and well, probably even Cinderella. I mean, but this I would still definitely say it's up there as far as like quality as far as good remakes goes. This falls on the also, but this actually falls on the good side of the Disney remakes, if you ask me. Like, I was kind of a little apprehensive I was initially apprehensive of some of the changes I heard about, so I kind of went in also I went in thinking hoping for the best, but also kind of preparing for the worst for some of these things. But in the end, I think I still had I think I'm gonna say I still had a good time with the movie, even with some of the potentially more controversial changes. Which, like as I said, this is not going to be a recap of the plot, as kind of the plot is kind of similar, is very similar, but kind of more expanded than the original movie was. Like original movie was so the opening immediately establishes like it's moving the opening of the movie moves at a quicker pace than the original animated movie does. It basically jumps straight into the trial. The trial's like very truncated. Yeah, a little bit when it comes to changing these remakes, they have to make sense and be good. And I think this movie actually, as I said, I think this movie actually does kind of fall in line there, even though, like I said, there might be some more apprehension there with some of the other ones. But okay, of course, I'll get to that, and I'm still kind of, honestly, I'm still kind of forming my opinions on these. So, as I said, this is kind of just an off the cuff kind of thing. The trial is immediately truncated, and one of the big glaring differences is immediately brought to attention: the absence of Gantu. It's like Gantu obviously was an iconic part of the original movie. He was only in the movie very briefly. Like in only like the opening scene, like a little brief scene where he talks to the Grand Councilwoman, and then the ending climax. And then I think a lot of people's his more iconic status kind of stems from his role in like Stitch the movie and Lilo and Stitch the series. Not to mention, I mean, not to say that he wasn't interesting in the original movie, but I think that's more where his fan base comes from, mainly with his partnership with 625, which there's actually is kind of in there's fun enough. There's actually is an Easter egg of like 625 and even 627 in this movie. So Gantu was definitely a glaring difference. So it is kind of interesting. So it does kind of lead you to wonder where this movie will go, because it already kind of establishes it's going in a somewhat different direction. And but then that brings us to immediately another kind of controversial change. Jumba. Of course, as we know, David Ogden Stiers is no longer with us. So unfortunately, even if they wanted to go with him, they couldn't. So I was kind of interested when I first heard that Zach Galifianakis of all people was going to be Jumba, and I will say it's all right. I mean, his performance is kind of fine. Like it does take a little bit more getting used to than I kind of anticipated. I mean, they lean definitely more into his evil scientist side as we find out as the series as this particular movie goes on. As like to answer, I didn't notice a hamster wheel Easter egg, but there might be one. I'll have to look into that. But there is like a 625, and I believe like a Reuben Easter egg and an Angel Easter egg, if I remember correctly. I'll have to look that. I'll have to find that out some other time. But to continue where I was, like Jumbo is definitely the most changed from the original movie because, as some of you might be aware, based on recent internet discourse, Jumbo is now actually elevated to being the villain of the movie. He's the villain. He's the one who he's more openly malicious. He's he's the driving force of the climax. He's basically just he created it to be the Russian accent is what like I said, yeah, like David Ogden Stiers obviously gave him an iconic Russian accent. So obviously in this case they're basically just having Zach Galifianakis speaking his natural voice. And honestly, I will say they probably should have gone with probably a little deeper, gone with a little deeper voice, or had him speak a little deeper because it really doesn't work. Obviously, it works when coming out of him disguised as a human, but as his normal alien form, I don't think it really worked as well. I mean, it's fine for what it is, but I think they could have. I honestly think they probably could have gone for maybe a little something better there. I mean, he's not the performance itself, I will say, isn't bad. But it's just then, it's obviously once again living up to the original is going to be a hard task because let's just face it, very few things, if any, can live up to the original. I mean, like this movie had a lot of had very big shoes to fill, and and like I said, few things do live up to the original movie. And I'll say this one does a good doesn't say disservice to the movie by any means. I think it's a perfectly valid. I think it validates its own existence in a way. So I was like, so Jumbo basically becomes the villain. He's the one who basically he doesn't understand the concept of of love and anything like that. Kind of like standard Disney villain stuff. Kind of. It's like he even wants to rip apart Stitch to make him into a new 627, remove Stitch's emotional center and all that. I mean, we can make the argument that Jumbo was an evil genius in his beginning, so I guess it's acceptable, and obviously Jumbo would be redeemed and developed as the film proceeds, especially to the. I mean, yeah, but he actually doesn't, and he actually does not in this movie. He remains the villain even after being after. Another point of divergence is that Pleakley is not like a general in there. He's more of like an Earth. He's like kind of like did Earth studies. He's not an agent. He actually like studied Earth, and was just teamed up with Jumbo in this movie. So yeah. And what really happens is like after like the Grand Councilwoman suspends their search, Jumbo actually actively betrays Pleakley and all that. So yeah, Pleakley actually becomes like remains the guardian while Jumbo becomes arrested at the end of the movie. But he is still alive, so I kind of if they ever do a sequel, and I know the director Dean Fletcher Camp is actually open to making a sequel, but we'll obviously see how that goes. With the whole Jumbo thing, I'm still unsure of it. I mean, it worked for the story they were trying to tell, but again, you still kind of have the original image of Jumbo in your mind, like who claims to be the evil scientist, but then ultimately reforms, becomes part of the Ohana. Here, like he's openly like mocking the Ohana and Hawaiian culture and kind of like almost Hawaiian culture in general. And I mean, he mocks humanity by itself, but yeah, he intentionally like he's mispronouncing things, doesn't even remember Lilo's name. Basically, he's becoming a more of a jerk. Even like And the thing is, he's not even ultimately that threatening. He's still mainly a comical villain, even at the end. He's not doesn't even really prove that much of a threat. Lilo actually manages to defeat him in the final climactic fight aboard his ship. So even then, so he's not even. I mean, again, he's more of just an antagonist in the movie. Of course, the real emotional center there is, of course, Lilo and Nani. I honestly believe. I think that this is probably like one of the best aspects of the. This is obviously like the best aspect of this movie besides besides Stitch himself, which I will get to. Lilo and Nani, it's a lot of the same beats. But Lilo has changed a little bit from the beginning. Instead of just like being the weird kid, just solely the weird kid. Now she's a little more mischievous. Like she gets into trouble, she acts out. On it, a lot of it is actually hinted upon. It's the fact that she's still trying to cope over the loss of her parents. And they even delve more into Nani's backstory here. Like, where was it kind of implied that she was like a championship surfer in the original movie? Here, that's actually expanded upon. She's a championship surfer. She is a bright student. Was even accepted into a college on scholarship for marine biology, which is kind of a funny gag that Lilo, because Lilo, the funny gag that Lilo thinks that she's joining the Marines, which I admit is which is a kind of a funny joke. But she doesn't want to she does not want to take the scholarship because she obviously has to take care of Lilo. And the fun fact, the social worker this time, instead of Cobra Bubbles, is Mrs. Kakawa, who's actually played by the original Nani, Tia Carrere. And it goes a lot of the same. Again, I apologize for the rambling. I'm still trying to say my piece about this. I'm guessing Dean couldn't really succeed as he intended to honor the original because the Disney's Polygon is still demanding. That I don't know. Really, the only change that they said they mandated was like Disney didn't want bleakly cross-dressing. That's really the only thing we know of that they like demanded, at least not having their paper thin disguises as they did in the original, mandating like the human disguises. Those are really the only stipulations that I'm personally aware of. There might be more behind the scenes that I'm aware of, but again, I don't know yet. It hasn't really completely been revealed. I didn't mean to click on that again. All right, so it really does more. Nani really takes more center stage in this movie than she did before. I mean, the movie is obviously still about Lilo, Stitch, and Nani, but Nani's character is more like she's shown to be like more stressed. She has bills piling up, and it actually delves more into how Stitch has become like a destructive force in their life, almost like being like initially thinking that it might be good for Lilo, and it ends up actually kind of tearing things apart. I mean, that is obviously touched upon in the original movie, but it actually like basically more blatant here. It's like he causes Nani to lose his job. He'll lose her job. She almost drowns Lilo. I mean, he almost drowned Lilo again during Hawaiian roller coaster ride. You really get to feel more for Nani's struggle here, like and again, kind of relatable. Like she has bills. She has to look after her sister and everything. And in Nani, there actually is another controversial change. At the end of the movie, she actually loses custody. Manages to lose custody of Lilo. That was definitely a surprising end. It's like she just like Lilo gets taken to the with this in live action. There's something I couldn't possibly pull off in live action, and even Gantu sadly is presence on her. I mean, maybe they're saving Gantu for the next movie. I can't say for sure, but as I was saying, Lilo does get separated from Nani in the end, but she gets to stay with Tutu, and Tutu, David's grandmother, right there and is in her house. And at the end, the movie introduces like a portal gun, kind of a portal gun that Jumba and Stitch use during the fight, during like their climactic battle. But so Nani still uses that to visit Lilo. So it's not like they're going to be like out of each other's lives entirely, which kind of softens the blow a little bit. But it definitely kind of is. I personally, some people like say it goes against the themes of the movie, but I personally think it kind of strengthens it. Actually, kind of strengthens it a little bit. And that's probably like my most controversial opinion in this. Like, it's still there's still Ohana, despite the fact that she no longer has legal guardianship over Lilo, and she can still visit. And who's to say? Maybe a sequel will explore that. Maybe after Nani gets her things together and everything, maybe she'll be able to regain custody. But right, it's basically like doing what's best for everyone. Even it's not always an easy choice. And I actually kind of respect the movie for going in a different kind of more bittersweet direction. I mean, the original movie did have that happy ending where Stitch was integrated into the family, and of course, I think that ending does work better overall for that version of the story. I think for here, I can at least very much appreciate them trying to do something different. It's not exactly, I said, no, that's one kind of things I was interested. It does kind of interest me. It's not a black and white. It's still kind of unhappy. It's kind of a bittersweet ending, but Nani can still visit Lilo and still get to see her sister. So like I said, I know that probably rubs some people the wrong way, but some people, did you like? Yes, did answer to put it simply, yes, I did like the movie. I wouldn't say it's my favorite movie by any means. Like, it's not as good as the original, but I did like it. I liked it more than I disliked it, if that makes sense. So, like I said, again, I know that's caused a bit of controversy, the whole breaking of the Ohana, but I still think it actually kind of reinforces like the found family trope, and that's another reason why that's probably the movie that introduced me to that storyline and made me fall in love with it so much. Like, obviously, Lilo and Nani are biological sisters, but like, Stitch and everything, Stitch coming in, it becomes a bit of and the rest of the Ohana becomes a kind of a found family there. And that aspect is still kind of maintained in this. Like, it highlights the community. I think it kind of emphasizes more of like the general Hawaiian community as one big Ohana. Like, with the neighbors, Miss Tutu and David. Which again, I can really I don't think it really takes away from that at all. I did say it enhances it, and maybe I'm just reading into it differently, but I'm not saying it's actually better than the original one, but I think it maybe instead of enhances it, it like takes it in a different direction, and I can definitely appreciate that. Now, speaking of, like, you're probably wondering if Jumbo goes, what about Pleakley? Well, Pleakley is actually the one who stays behind on Earth, because like he's basically more of an Earth fanboy here than he actually is like an Earth expert. Like, the whole mosquitoes thing is just brought up and never actually really explained how it works. Never explained why the mosquitoes are, considered an endangered species or anything like that. Cobra Bubbles is completely uninvolved with the aliens until the very end. Like, he didn't have any involvement with the Grand Councilwoman like he did in the original. So again, I appreciate this movie for taking some risks with it, because obviously a lot of people from my age are probably like very protective of this movie. They love the movie very much, and I'm one of those people that believes like remakes don't actually tarnish the reputation of the original. Like, the original still exist. I mean, sure, no, it doesn't exist in a vacuum, but the original still exists and stands for what it is. I mean, the fact that this movie exists doesn't erase the fact that the original one does, and doesn't erase how I feel. It doesn't actually erase or override how I feel about it. So, I mean, that's another point. That's another point of mine. I don't think I don't think that does that. So my point with Cobra Bubbles being like, it is kind of interesting how they elevate him from he's actually still a CIA agent, and in this movie when he becomes like the social worker, or he actually disguises himself as a social worker as cover to get close to Stitch. Basically he and Pleakley seemingly end up becoming one of Lilo's guardians at the end as well, building the Ohana. So yeah. And so I guess after all that, we could probably move on to Stitch himself. And I can't tell you, it was so nice to actually, in a new way, hear Chris Sanders' voice return as Stitch again. Like you could in his interviews, it seemed like he really likes, even with the remake, he still enjoys voicing Stitch. He says he plans to voice him as long as he can. So here's to hoping that they actually do manage to make more. If they do make more, hopefully they can get him back. He can do even more. A lot of the dialogue some of his dialogue is actually lifted wholesale from the original movies, like not just like him re-recording some of the lines, but some of the straight up dialogue is ripped from those movies, which is understandable considering he's actually a busy guy. Considering during the production of this movie, he was currently directing The Wild Robot. So, but with his new stuff, I'd still say I think he still got it. I think he, with all the new dialogue he had to record, I think he still got it. Stitch still sounds like Stitch, and that's the most important. And that's probably the most important thing I can say. Like, the funny thing is, like, whereas the others are like kind of toned up or toned down, he's actually kind of toned down. Like he's the whole wanting to destroy cities thing, and he's not able to do smokeless on stage like he used to. Yeah, I mean, of course that was when he first did the voice. It was 20 years ago, so naturally that's going to change over time. The ability to do so is going to change over time, but he still came in and did some new recordings, and it's actually kind of hard to tell unless you like religiously watch the movie. If you've never seen the movie before, you probably wouldn't be able to tell what's a new recording, and what's an old one. So I can attest to his capabilities there. Like I said, his whole wanting to destroy cities is actually kind of toned down. I mean, his destructive tendencies are there, but it's more like a curious, like toddler kind of acting out kind of thing, rather than like kind of pretend he's like a lot of times pretending to be this evil monster. Like, I mean, they didn't really flesh that out as much in this movie as they did, and like technically another thing, Lilo and Nani don't actually see Stitch in his alien form. I mean, they find out he's an alien, obviously, but they never actually see his four-armed with antennas kind of thing. Glad to see he's involved for the How to Train Your Dragon live act as executive producer. They were all big cheer for Chris and Nina. I didn't actually know he was involved in an extra executive position for the How to Train Your Dragon remake, which I'm also going to see. Whether or not Dragon or Tiki want to be involved with that is yet to be seen. So who knows? I might be doing another one of these, for all I know. Which I am looking forward to that, to be honest. So Stitch is still Stitch. Like I said, his destructive tendencies are kind of toned down. I mean, it's kind of only like vaguely referenced. Like he's just more like causes general mayhem, and still he calms down a lot. I think a lot earlier than he does in the original, or at least it's not explain. But with Stitch is still Stitch. You have the whole family speech at the end. Everyone, but he joins the Ohana. Again, sorry if I'm kind of rambling. I guess that I'm just kind of going off the cuff here, and I just saw the movie only a couple hours ago. I know that's not really an excuse, but this is also my first ever solo stream. So I guess I've talked about the characters all I want. Like, I really like if you're talking about like the alien design, going into the designs and the effects. Like Stitch, as you can see here, he looks great in live action. Like they didn't lose what made Stitch Stitch again. Like the voice, the mannerisms, the animation, the design, everything screams Stitch. Like it's like he walked off the paper and on and into the real world. It's like if you watch Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, successful, see successful 3D surgery. Thank you, doing very well. Thank you, Little Blue. I appreciate the vote of confidence there. I did like brand councilwoman looks great. Again, walked off the page. Her extra details are nice. And speaking of which, I love that like, we got Hannah Waddingham to voice her. I agree with Little Blue. Thank you, Kogias. It's nice to have. It is nice to have some people. It's nice to have people who are in your corner for that. Not that other people aren't in my corner. I'm just saying. Hannah Waddingham, Rebecca from Ted Lasso voicing the Grand Councilwoman, which was definitely a nice touch. Like then Jumba and Pleakley, their designs definitely I think they worked better in animation than they did in live action. Maybe with like a little more tweak, like we're pretty in the original movie, Pleakley was like a little, like kind of like the yellowish green, but here he kind of has like a sinewy mucus color, kind of. Yeah, and of course, and again, speaking of Pleakley, it is Kevin McDonald's voice is of course iconic for that, but and I think Billy Magnuson and Kevin he didn't really lower his voice for Pleakley, but I think he encapsulated the character and fanboy nature of Earthen better than like Zach Galifianakis did for Jumba per se. But the designs on them, like they also kind of walked off the page, but not necessarily in the best way. The design they're not very good, and there's probably a reason why they decided to keep them mostly in anime in their human disguises for most of the movie. I mean, I'm not saying the designs should be changed or anything. Yeah, Helen Mirren probably would have made a good choice. Another British actress would have been a good choice. Little Blue. So I wonder why I don't know if Zoe Caldwell's still doing anything, but I mean, she doesn't. The funny thing is, she doesn't even sound too off from Zoe Caldwell, and that's the interesting thing. I mean, it's distinct enough to know that it's not her, but she's not too far off. But as I was saying, Jumba and Pleakley's designs, they don't necessarily translate into live action as well as the as like Stitches in the Grand Councilwoman's does. Like, I think they shouldn't have made Jumba furry. They should have like kept him like maybe like made him more like reptilian, maybe. I mean, not necessarily like all scaly, but more. But Jacob, well, I actually didn't. I didn't know that. Well, that's unfortunate. That is unfortunate. Like David Ogden Stiers, he's gone too. I didn't actually know. So I apologize for that. So, but again, Hannah Waddingham did a great job. But back to the whole design thing, like I would have shaved Jumba's head. Like the hair kind of looks weird on his design. And like I said, Pleakley kind of looks all kind of like a grain of kind of like a mucus kind of coating on his skin, which is kind of strange. But it does kind of highlight, it does kind of show like how how flexible he is, kind of. And I really love how Pleakley, like, I love how Pleakley's kind of like more of an Earth fanboy, and he studied Earth here more than he was like the resident agent Earth expert. The rest of the alien designs are good. Like I said, I just don't think Jumbo and Pleakley's worked out too well. And of course, I guess I guess the final thing, Lilo. So the girl that Maya Kealoha that they got from Lilo is absolutely perfect as Lilo. Like she's just so adorable, so cute, and she has great. And she can actually be a very good actress. I see her becoming a very good actress. Like she handles the emotional scenes very well. Like she definitely she acts like Stitch is actually there. She hits all the emotional. As I said, she hits all the emotional beats. She's charming. She's funny. She definitely fits Lilo's quirkiness and kind of like melancholy actually very well. Like she handles like the melancholy of Lilo's nature actually very well. Is it one? I would personally say yes, it is. In my personal opinion, anyway. Whether or not you would agree upon watching it is obviously it's up to it's up to personal opinion, but ultimately in my case I would say yes. Yes it is. I think it is one of the better Disney remakes, live action remakes. Like I said, I still think that I don't think it reaches the gold standard. Like I said, I still think the gold standard probably would be like the 2015 Cinderella and the 2016 Jungle. But I'd still say that this definitely is in the same echelon. Maybe top, I would say probably top 5 or even top 3. So I mean, let's face it, Jungle Book set an extremely high bar, and I don't think this movie really reaches that. If I had to choose between watching the original or this one, I would always choose the original. So again, but as I was going on with Lilo, like Maya Kealoha, she was absolutely perfect as Lilo. She's a perfect live action Lilo. Like, I mean, I can't imagine a better one. Like she's basically perfect. I can see why they went with her. So, eh, all in all, I would probably say I've already got another movie on the way called The Wrecking Crew stars her alongside Jason Momoa, Morena Baccarin, Dave Bautista, Tamara Morrison, Stephen Ruda, and Jacob. Oh, nice. I say she has a good. I see if this is her debut. This is considered her debut, so I guess I could say I think she has a bright future ahead of her. I mean, she had kind of big shoes to fill when it came to Lilo, and I think she did a very good job. And ultimately, I don't think I have much more to say about this movie. I personally did enjoy it. Like even some of the more controversial things, I'm still kind of iffy about. Like I don't know if Jumbo worked as a villain as well as they intended. He's still kind of like a more comedic villain, kind of like he barely even poses that much of a threat. Like the most he does is like destroy the house and then capture Stitch after Stitch. There's apparently another crew on a Moana 2. I see it on right. I didn't actually know that. Nice. Maybe this is like her live action debut, or maybe she just did like some additional work for Moana. Again, apologies for the lack of research on that front. But so I still think the movie I would say hits more than it misses. But and again, I don't think it'll live up to the original movie. And again, like I said, not much can. The original movie still holds a very special place in my heart. Like it's still one of my favorite movies in the entire Disney canon. Like probably within the top 10 or maybe even top 5. I mean, and I can't say that this movie exactly. I mean, the biggest comment is like it's not a 1-to-1. A lot of the emotional beats and lines are still there. But it's not entirely 1-to-1 like some of the others are. Like, I mean, some of the others are like do add their own special elements to them. Some of them fare better than others, but I think this is one that actually set out to change. When it changed a few things, I think it actually landed some more than the other recent live action remakes did. Honestly, I don't think I have that much more to say regarding this. Like I enjoyed my time. I'd say see it if you like the original. I'm not gonna. I will say it's not as good as the original. The original one still stands like one of the crown jewels. I think in the Walt Disney Animation Studios canon. And I think this movie does a good job, like standing a little beneath it. Like it won't reach the same lofty heights as the original, but I think it works for what it is. And that's basically all I have to say. I personally enjoyed it, and I'd say watch it if you like the original. Just don't expect it to be as good. And I think that's kind of an obvious thing when it comes to all these remakes, though. So yeah, aloha, little blue, and thank you, and aloha, Code Geass. Thank you both. Thank you all for being here, and for those of you watching this in the future, thank you for listening to me ramble for about 40 minutes. Aloha.